What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. If you were around yesterday on live stream or just circling social media, you'll know that Ruby Dalla has been disqualified, surprise, surprise, from I almost said the conservative, from the liberal leadership race. One of the things that's funny about this, and no, the title of this video is not clickbait. There is essentially no leadership race anymore. It's canceled. It's off. There never was. The second Justin Trudeau came out and announced we're going to have a robust process. This should be akin to what he talked about during the pandemic when he says, we're all in this together. We've got each other's backs. It was just a setup to install Mark Carney. A lot of folks reached out to me and said, well, if I've got a Liberal membership, who should I vote for now that we don't want Mark Carney? Well, I've got bad news for everybody. All you're left with right now in terms of representation is Mark Carney, or Mark Carney. What do I mean by that? Well, when you look at Crystia Freeland, I mean, she's setting up the road for Mark Carney. When you look at Karina Gould, she's setting up the road for Mark Carney. It's all a plan to get him in. In fact, I'm willing to bet if somebody voted for either of those two at this point, they would concede for some bizarre reason to Mark Carney. It's all a plan to get him installed. I want to go over what's going on first for anybody who isn't aware. Ruby Dalla tweeting out last night, I've just been informed by the Liberal Party of Canada that I've been disqualified from the leadership race. This decision is both shocking and deeply disappointing, especially since it was leaked to the media. The allegations that the party have used against me are false and fabricated. The tactics used to remove me from this race only confirm what we already knew. Our message was resonating, we were winning, and the establishment felt threatened. I think absolutely those are the reasons. I mean, first it started off, and I did a video saying, look, the fix is already in to remove her. They were talking about ties to India, saying that it's interference, political interference, because her family migrated from India. Keep in mind, Ruby Dalla was Canadian-born. What about Jagmeet Singh's influence from other countries? And who funds him in terms of K-Stan? Justin Trudeau. And I'm allowed to say that because, well, we have documentation proving it. It's out there on the internet. Everybody's seen it. How come nobody's talking about who funds those guys? If they're going to audit Ruby Dalla now and say who she's taking donations from, perhaps they should audit Mark Carney. Perhaps they should audit Crystia Freeland. Perhaps they should audit Karina Gould and find out where they're getting their money from. Now, it's not to say that I'm standing up for a Liberal here. I'm not trying to defend a Liberal party. What we're talking about is that many people were saying that this is supposed to be democratic. This is supposed to be an exercise of Canadians' rights to choose who's going to be the next leader of a party. And essentially, that's what we set out to do when we encouraged people that, hey, these memberships are free. You should go and get a membership to a party. You should vote for somebody if you don't want Mark Carney. Get yourself familiarized with who's in the Liberal race. And a lot of support was focusing around Ruby. What has happened is they first talked about political interference, which is, again, rich, considering we still have multiple representatives in the House of Commons who are tied to political interference. But now they go after her on a witch hunt to essentially say that it's because one household used the maximum donation on a credit card, and then another spouse used the same credit card to make their maximum contribution. So because it came from the same card, it's somehow illegal, even though those donations were held. They cleared it with Elections Canada. It was done the right way. It's essentially just a witch hunt to remove her at this point. But the hypocrisy is outstanding enough to display that they're just flaunting in front of everyone's face now that this is and people are going to say, well, duh, Derek, but it is a rigged election. It was always from the beginning. There is no fair contest. The reason I bring that up is because they had to pay a very hefty entry fee in order to get in to the Liberal leadership race. Keep in mind, they get to keep that money. I believe they allowed contestants or candidates in to this leadership race simply to disqualify and take their money, which means Chandra Ayra's money was taken, Ruby Dalla's money was taken, and now that goes to the Liberal Party, goes into their coffers. So Ruby stating here, one day it was foreign interference, one day it was campaign violations, all in an attempt to keep me from debating Mark Carney and winning. I will continue to stand up for Canadians and fight for Canada. Of course, she talks down here about it. She talks in great extent. But where this was broken, keep in mind, they broke this online before disqualifying her, which is funny, isn't it? Mark Carney being an outsider. Well, the government propaganda news network, the CBC, essentially got the information about it long before Ruby did. The real reason Ruby Dalla was disqualified from the Liberal leadership race, they scrubbed her social media and found she wasn't loyal enough to Trudeau, Carney, or the WEF. We all know CBC likes to make content ID strikes. They like to shut down videos. So again, I will have a photo on the screen. We're going to run the audio because you're going to listen. I want you to listen to the rhetoric here that comes from a university. I'm assuming university professor. They've got a university background in their backdrop from a certain university. Again, the quality, as you can see, it was filmed from somebody's TV, so I can't see clearly where he's from. But he goes on to state how he's glad she's gone because she was very anti-WEF. I mean, this is where our tax dollars are going, folks. And keep in mind, I'm going to have another video talking about our tax dollars in the CBC very soon. Take a listen to this 2-minute clip as to what was discussed on CBC about it.
What do you make of this? I mean, this is the second candidate disqualified in a number of weeks. Chandra Arya, now Ruby Dalla. We're waiting to hear more from her on the specifics of this, but what do you make of this development from the party?
Strangely, I feel a bit relieved. You know, some of my friends, Liberal friends, talking about the leadership, we found a lot of Ruby Dalla's social media postings puzzling, to say the least. She was very anti-WEF, which is, you know, based on a conspiracy theory, and you often hear it more on the conservative or the right side. She was pretty vicious in her attacks on Prime Minister Trudeau, on Mark Carney, and you know, I'm used to that in any leadership race. There are some people that enter it and their intention is for attention. This felt a bit different. And you know, this is something that, you know, we talked about, and whether or not you add fuel to the fire or attention by, you know, retweeting or calling it out. But there was a lot of head scratching going on. You know, I worked on the Hill when Ruby Dalla was an MP, and there were some problematic issues, and a very well-known McLean story at the time. Not much had been heard from her. And when I scroll through her social media, again, there's the things that I just talked about that, you know, did not seem helpful in terms of, you know, where the Liberal Party is right now after 3 terms, trying to seek a 4th term. You know, these are the same questions we would have been talking about had there been a leadership debate. But if you scroll further back, there's not much in 2024, 2023 around politics, around Canada politics. Right. There's nothing wrong with being an influencer. Do I want one as my prime minister? Probably not. So there was a lot of things that just didn't seem to add up here. I'm glad that the process.
So I'm going to cut it off right there because what this guy, oh, there it is. The Brian Mulroney Institute of Government, apparently, is where this is being filmed. It's not a university. My apologies. What you have to take from this is him saying because she was on social media and is, quote, an influencer, she shouldn't have the right to run in the leadership race. Well, if you want to talk influencers, there's no greater influencer than Mark Carney. I mean, he's been advising the Liberal Party for years. Ruby Dalla was at least an MP before running. Whether she was currently sitting as an MP or not, she'd at least become an MP at some point. Mark Carney is being installed with no mandate, no vote from the people at least. This is a rigged vote to put him in power. The hypocrisy is unreal. But for this fart huffer to talk about, well, my liberal friends and I are just glad she's gone because we don't want an influencer running this party. We want the Liberals to run for another 4 years. People like this are the reason this country's in a bad spot. I'm curious how this guy's investment portfolio looks, knowing what's going on. For those, sorry, excuse me, holy, mic cut out there. For those who are perturbed by what happened to Ruby, again, I've reached out to Ruby's camp. We're trying to work out a date to have her come on and talk about what happened more in depth on the channel. Fear not, because Rebel News has gone ahead to talk about what happened. But now they're essentially trying to talk about Ruby running for the Conservative Party, which I think would be great. It would be a good slap at the Liberals. And to be completely honest, when you listen to some of the things Ruby was talking about, I mean, I think she'd fit in well with the Conservatives if she was willing to shift some of her political opinions. I think she'd work very well alongside Pierre. So let's take a listen to what Rebel had to say. On Friday afternoon, Ruby Dalla was kicked out of the Liberal leadership contest. Shockingly, she didn't even learn about it until her party, from her party, but from the CBC, who were tipped off by Liberal insiders. Definitely not Mark Carney then, because he's an outsider. The official excuse is that non-citizen worked on her campaign, yet the Liberal Party itself allows non-citizens as young as 14 to vote in their leadership race. We know what the real reason is. She dared to criticize Mark Carney. The momentum she had built must have threatened the Liberal brass, who have their sights on installing Carney as leader. The stage is now set for him to run relatively unopposed. So we came up with the idea to help Ruby take on the Liberal machine. It's so gross. We really thought they could bury this story at the end of the week without even noticing. This just goes to show that Justin Trudeau doesn't know how to handle strong women who disagree with him, from Jody Wilson-Raybould to Jane Philippot to Rose Knight. Again, yeah, isn't he pro-feminist? Isn't he, we stand up for diversity, equity, inclusion? So they told her because she has ties to India, she can't run. Then they told her, well, because you're a woman, you're not going to run. I mean, the hypocrisy is outstanding, folks. Maybe Ruby can find a home inside the Conservative Party, it says. Every day she campaigns would be the day that Canadians are reminded of how undemocratic the Liberals are. And not just that, have you noticed that the Liberals have disqualified 100% of the visible minorities who sought to challenge Mark Carney? I'm not someone who's fixated on race, but the mainstream media sure are. Imagine if Conservatives had done that. Like I say, having Ruby campaign against Carney would be a delight to see, don't you think? And of course, down here, if you agree, please sign our petition. I'll present the petition to Ruby myself. Ruby is more Canadian than Carney. He left our country for greener pastures and for some reason got 2 new passports along the way. Ruby doesn't have to quit politics just because some foreigner like Mark Carney wants to eliminate his competition. And of course, that's it. Like, Mark Carney hasn't lived in Canada for 11 years and he holds 3 passports. Meanwhile, they're talking about foreign interference from Ruby Dalla? Come on. This was never about the Liberal Party's rules. It's about silencing a strong, independent voice who dared to challenge their anointed one. Sign our petition and encourage Ruby to run for the Conservative Party of Canada. So down below, I will have a link to this page to sign Rebel's petition. I've already signed it myself. I think, look, Ruby, if you follow social media, if you go on Twitter, if you'd seen Ruby's post, she was almost, I'm not going to say is, but almost Pierre level memes. Coming back at the Liberal Party. She knows what she's doing to a certain extent. And again, I would like to see another strong voice on the Conservative team, pushing the memes, pushing back on the Liberals. I think it would be great. Again, when we get Ruby on the channel, I'll be asking her the same question if she wants to run for the Conservative Party against the Liberals. I think that would be fantastic. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think Ruby should run for the Conservatives? Let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think of what's happening with Carney? What do you think about our next Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, who's going to be installed, not elected? Let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if this video has earned it. If it's your first time here, I certainly hope it has. Make sure to click the bell for notifications. Join me live on the channel this Wednesday, as well as every Friday, for Unhinged Fringe on Wednesdays, Friday Night Fringe on Fridays, especially on Friday, where I'm joined by the very beautiful Mrs. Fringe as we go over everything that's happened this week in politics, everything that's happening in the week ahead that we're aware of, as well as back and forth within the greatest YouTube community on this platform. I look forward to talking with each and every one of you, both Wednesday and Friday nights, and hearing what you have to say outside of making these videos. But I look most important to hearing what you have to say this Wednesday, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.